Good morning. Whoops. Can you hear me now? Good morning.
Nobody's home.
Good morning to you. Good morning.
Hello, hello. Yeah, no, they're not working. Yeah, but it's, there we go. We're on.
Looks like Brian flipped the magic switch in the mystery room. Good morning. Today is November 12th, 2024, and this is the City of Prescott Council Subcommittee on Water Issues. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Rusing,
Here.
Member Fruworth,
Here.
and Member Gambogi is excused today.
Okay, thank you.
Our first item today is the approval of the October 1st, 2024 Water Issues Subcommittee meeting minutes.
Do I hear any changes as far as the minutes?
No changes from me.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the October 1st Water Issues Subcommittee meeting minutes.
Second.
Passes 2-0. Next item is WSA 24-045 and WSA 24-046, two water service applications submitted by Dibble Engineering on behalf of owner Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Location is APN 106-03-004, comprising of 240 acres.
Well, good morning, Water Issues Subcommittee. I'm Brian Reese, the Water Resource and Environmental Services Manager here for the city in the Public Works Department. So today we have in front of you a water service application from Embry-Riddle, and they are looking at doing a couple of residential buildings. So up on the screen in front of you is a basic I'm so sorry here. This is not what I expected to see. This is the map. What we had done, and obviously somehow our wires got crossed a little bit. We put the location of the buildings so that you could know where they were at. But it looks like somehow we got our wires crossed a little bit. Oh, is it in your? Oh, okay. Oh, good. At least then you have that. You've been able to see that, and you can see it in there. Not quite sure what's going on here. But you can see that those locations of those buildings are kind of on the west side of the red shaded area, closer to the sports fields. So two residential hall buildings that will support a maximum of around 300 students for the university. Getting with the engineer of record for this project, Dibble, and asked them if they had an approximation of landscape use. And they gave us around 4 acres of landscape to use for our estimation on this. So Dibble put together a demand analysis based on the water multipliers that we provided to them. And came up with an indoor water use of about 28 acre feet for this project. And then with the 4 acre feet utilizing ADWR's estimate of 1.5 acre feet per acre of landscape and outdoor area, came up with just around, I think it was the total, about 6 acre feet, obviously. So the total being 34 acre feet as the estimated water usage for this project. So I just wanted to mention that here in the audience today is Mr. Brad Sine. He's the facilities director for Embry-Riddle. So he's here and he can answer any questions that you might have regarding the project. So the total acre footage for this project is estimated at 34 acre feet. As you know, per our water policy guideline number 14, any project that comes in over 50% of the remaining water budget has to go through appeal process. At this point in the residential budget, there's 38.5 acre feet of water available, so this exceeds the 50% threshold. So we informed the applicant about this, and they have asked us to move forward with the appeals process, which in your packet, they provided some economic benefits statement and information on why they would request that the city council consider this project and the water that they're asking for. So with that, I just want to make sure that we've covered everything that I have for you here today. So yes, in summary, 34 acre feet of water for total demand on this request, and so at this point, for your consideration on whether you would like to move this forward for either approval or denial to City Council to vote on. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have related to this request.
Maybe this is a question for Brad, but 4 acres of landscaping, is it going to be grass?
There's almost no.
Excuse me, Brad, could you go up to
Yeah, why don't you come
to the
up
podium?
and
It helps for the record.
Yeah, and introduce yourself.
My name is Brad Sin. I'm the Director of Facilities at Embry-Riddle, and there was very little turf in this project. Minimal.
Could you give us a little rundown?
Well, I wasn't anticipating that question, so.
Well, how many bathrooms have you gotten
sure.
that far?
So-
Like, is it going to be 1 bathroom to 2 rooms, kind of a Jack and Jill thing, or showers and sinks at the end of the hall?
Right. The floor plan for this, Embry-Riddle doesn't have any traditional dormitory housing where it's essentially bedrooms and then a large community bathroom. None of our housing is that format. All of our housing is apartments. So these apartments, the 300 students, there is actually 300 bathrooms. These are private bedroom, private bathroom suites.
So 1 student for every bedroom? You're going to have 300 units.
Correct.
With 1 student. Wow.
I mean, they're very atypical from what you'd expect
I
from.
remember my dorm days.
Yeah, they're.
Oh my gosh, we were like sardines.
This project is in response to. It wouldn't surprise anybody that our students have trouble finding housing that is not that's out off campus. In the area, but with our general shortage of housing, especially at a student price point. So this is somewhat in response to that. Plus, there are general trends in higher ed that students just more and more would prefer to live off campus or live on campus, which is a little atypical to my era as well. The part of the reason for that is the 9-month lease that students can come and simply be under a housing agreement for the term of the school year, and then go home, save the money on that kind of thing, go do internships. And really, if you have a 12-month or an 18-month lease here in town, it doesn't meet that need.
I can see your point. That's a very good idea. So they're not locked into a 12-month lease, even though they're doing other things over the summer. And so you expect a decreased occupancy, and that'll kind of have to adjust your water use requirements for that. So
yeah, our total student count over the summer. So our student population right now is around 3,100, and about half of them live on campus. It's 1,450-ish, and that trend won't change. We still expect those students to mostly leave. We usually house around 150 students total over the summer, and there are summer camps that come and go and things of that nature. But our full-time on campus over the summer is really just around 150 or a little bit less.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I was trying to, we have a multiplier of 0.12 for apartments. So I was trying to work that in, and you have to adjust it for the decreased occupancy for 3 months. And so I think this looks pretty reasonable as far as the residences. Now, about the landscaping, can you go into some details about what kind of landscaping.
Right.
Is it going to be xeriscape or artificial
So, yeah,
turf?
everything we do that is part of a newer project is xeriscaping. The plant list that we run off of is primarily the plant list as recommended by the city. We have been in a program of natural turfing quite a bit. Our entrances, as you drive by, you'll notice there's no natural turf at the entrances any longer. It's artificial. And we're also currently in the planning stages and have gotten proposals on replacing our large soccer field, which is a natural turf field with artificial turf. That soccer field accounts for, because we sub-meter the campus, so we have meters you don't see. We pay our bill based on the big meters, but we sub-meter everything else for usage.
That
And-
encourages conservation.
Yeah,
You
and
can see where the
big-
water's going.
Yeah, that big soccer field accounts for, from the time the irrigation is turned on to turned off, is around 1 million gallons a month.
Yeah. And
So
we're-
we have around 4 million gallons a year that goes for the sports fields.
Is this building going to have any, like a stormwater drainage system to divert water into like landscaped areas or store water?
Not in what you're describing. The plant materials in this plan are actually fairly minimal. And the final form it will take, as it has gone through the process with the city, there's also been a parallel effort, a value engineering effort to bring the price down. So usually that consists, in every case I've been involved with in my few years with Embry-Riddle, that usually involves removing about half the plant material. So I would expect the current landscape plan that's before the city will actually the water demand will go down.
Okay, because, we're in a 30-year drought still. And I think we've been doing a good job with our water management policy and our xeriscaping because as little potable water that we use for landscaping, the better. So Lois, do you have some questions or comments?
Yeah, no, that honestly, the landscaping, the 6 acre feet for landscaping, when I've been out on your campus and seen the kind of, highland kind of landscaping that you do, it did strike me as a lot of water. Looking forward to you guys seeing what you can do with the approval of the plant plan to see what you can do to lower that. But I'm prepared at this point, given what you guys have been doing so far, to be okay with moving this forward to council with the 6 acre feet. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did have another whole different question or concern.
Okay. Yes, Lois?
So when we go through these kind of appeal processes, the benefits that are supposed to be outlined per policy are for the city of Prescott. And when I was going through the economics sheet yesterday, there was a lot of good data, but it was very focused on economic impact for Yavapai County. County was throughout the entire sheet. And I know, given your scope and the people you're employing and where they're coming from, like, I understood what you were doing, but I do think, again, in the spirit of when this comes forward to the full council for approval, it would be really good for you guys to outline within some of these numbers exactly what are some of the tax economic impacts, employees that are from the city of Prescott. If you can take this down another level when you come back to us, and pull out some City of Prescott benefits so we can say, yes, we followed the policy. Because right now I'm like, well, good for Yavapai County, but I'm not a county board of supervisors. So that'd be the only learning, that I would ask again for you guys to be prepared to take it to that level.
Okay.
Good
Yeah, and
point.
the reason being our aggregate data on employees and things of that nature is Prescott Valley, Chino, and we have a lot of employees that live in Chino, obviously, because not if the traffic, if anyone does 89, the traffic's obviously getting more and more and more coming south into town.
Yeah.
But
Well, the 300 students that you'll be putting in here will most likely be spending money in the city of Prescott
Right,
purchasing, so that was, if you can find some of the clear and tangible benefits out of the total that are for City of Prescott. I think it will help the council approve this at the end. And I was not going to hold anything up today, but I wanted to give you that benefit. And also just, for staff, that we really make sure going forward, when we move things forward, there's some very clear City of Prescott benefits, so we can say we're following the policy and treating all appeal process people fairly and equitably. So, Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just have more details focused on advantages to the city of Prescott. But I realize Embry-Riddle, it's a nationwide, you have students from all over, and it's a regional employer.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly thank you for that chance.
Do we have any public comments or anything?
We do not.
I'd just like to say that we're very fortunate to have a wonderful quality school such as Embry-Riddle in our town, and the fact that you're growing and expanding your curriculum and your campus is something you're preparing for the future.
And in fact, this week we have our mayor and several members of staff and council down with you all, being sponsored at Daytona Beach facility and campus. And I look forward to seeing the economic benefits, additional economic benefits and ideas we can bring from Daytona, to the city of Prescott. So I think this is a great partnership, and we will, continue to build upon it. So, with that, would you like a motion?
Brian, any comments before we go to a motion?
No other comments for me.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, I move to recommend forwarding WSA 24-045 and 046 to council for approval or denial.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Passes 2-0. Next item is presentation and discussion regarding the amended 2022 water management policy, current residential and non-residential water budget overview for July 1st, 2024 through October 31st of 2024.
Okay, so our next item, we'll go over the water expenditures from each of those budgets, from residential and non-residential. So per the amended 2022 water policy, guidelines number 11 through 13 establishes a semi-annual water budget for residential and non-residential projects. So the budget set from July 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024 for residential was 50 acre feet per year. And the budget set for the non-residential projects was at 25 acre feet per year. So the first table we have up here is a summary of the residential projects that you've seen for this budget period. So we had a total of 5 projects come through. 4 of those were administratively approved, and one of them was heard here at the Water Issues Subcommittee, and then heard at Council. It was approved on October 22nd, and that was for that 82 unit multifamily site. So altogether, to this point in the budget period, we've had approved 11.41 acre feet out of the total of 50, and that leaves a remaining budget of 38.51 for the period. So a couple things to note: we're doing this meeting in November instead of December because we're not going to have a December meeting.
Yes.
So we may see some administratively approved projects move in that might eat a little bit into that budget.
I have a question,
Yes.
Brian. We just did the Embry-Riddle dorms.
Yes.
And they're not on residential.
Yes.
Are they considered residential
They
or
are.
commercial?
Yeah, exactly. We put them in the residential budget. So if full council approves that project at the next or at the council meeting 2 weeks from now,
Then they
per
don't
water-
have to appeal? They won't have to appeal?
Well, yeah, this started the appeal process. This having them here started the appeal process, and then it will finish at the council meeting in 2 weeks from now. But if that project is approved per current water policy, that water will not actually come out of the residential budget. So what I had noted for you, our next agenda item will cover setting the budget for the next period. And I do have that a value there so that you can keep that in mind, is that, bear with me a second and I'll grab that total value.
Before you move on, I just wanted to make a point. When we were trying to figure out what to have for the residential buckets and our recommendation, bringing that forward to council, we had no idea what sequence that all these various projects would come forward in.
Sure.
And so when we were thinking originally your recommendation was somewhere between 50 to 75, we ended up coming in at, or 40 to 70. I forget what you were down there, but we were guesstimating that, we knew the Lafferty project would come forward. We knew or hoped Embry-Riddle project was going to come forward. And what we did, trying to avoid people going through the appeal process, was to do it this way. Now, what's interesting is to take it up to 50. What's interesting is the Lafferty project came first, and that was good. They didn't have to go through an appeal process. Again, you don't know what else is going to be administratively approved, but if we had, taken it a little higher, even Embry wouldn't have had to come through the appeal process. So I think we're just all learning. And again, it's trying to make things simpler to do business with the city of Prescott. But, I just wanted to bring, when I was looking at all this last night, the interesting, what would have happened if Embry had come first. With the 34, we still weren't at a high enough number to avoid them going through the appeal process, which I'm okay with a big project like that. But if we had been lower, there was a possibility even the Lafferty project would have had to have gone if there had been more administratively approved buildings coming through residential. So I think we just have to keep learning what to do and how to make it as fast as possible when we have good projects that they can get through us and get through the council process as well and get going on building our economic development plan.
So Brian, when do you think the Embry-Riddle project will be approved finally?
If
it is, I'm just
we'll get
projecting.
it on the voting meeting 2 Tuesdays from now. I don't know the exact date, but the last voting
December.
meeting in November. The last meeting
December.
in November.
The last meeting in November.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Next week.
Yeah. Sorry, first meeting in December. I'm
First
sorry.
meeting in December,
We are
right.
off from our normal schedule of the
Yeah.
first Tuesday in November. So you're correct. It's the first meeting in December.
Yeah, which will be December
the
10th.
voting meeting. Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. And
Yes.
then the next water issues subcommittee meeting is going to be January 7th because
Right.
we've got a kind of a retreat scheduled for the first Tuesday and Wednesday in December.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
We'll be skipping the December meeting, and the
Okay.
next one will be in January. So
So it'll be moving forward pretty quickly.
yes, definitely.
Okay. I'd like to get that done before the end of the year. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
it will definitely be on the schedule before the end of the year.
Okay.
Like I said, if it is approved, it doesn't technically come out of the budget. But I do have that value. I'll go over it. I don't think it's really pertinent for this particular item. This is the budget that is remaining 38.51 at this point, and it's just for informational purposes with this particular agenda item. But then moving on to the non-residential, there was 4 projects that were heard or approved in this period. 2 of them went through the administrative process, and 2 of them came to this subcommittee and were then subsequently approved by council. The total in the period for non-residential is 4.27 acre feet. The budget was set at 25 for this period, so the remaining at this point is 20.73 acre feet. Again, there might be some smaller projects that get approved between now and the end of the year, but any project that doesn't meet administrative threshold will have to wait until the January meeting to be heard. So with that, that's a summary of the two water budgets at this point in time. If there's any questions on that.
Thank you, Brian. Lois, any comments?
No, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
No, we're not in the approving of the next.
Exactly.
I was ready to go ahead to the next topic.
You're always
Let's go.
ready with those
All right.
motions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not done yet here. We have one more. So this, also the third slide here shows the water that we are tracking through existing contracts that was administered or was approved to this point, and that date should be telling you the exact. So through through October 31st, 2024. So that's when we stopped tracking so that we could prepare the memos and the tables that you see before you. So this last final table shows the existing contracts that were approved through October 31st of 2024. There was a total of 23 projects. One of them was a duplex, so that totaled to 24 residential units. At 3.98 acre feet. Per the water policy, this does not come out of any of the budgets, the residential or the non-residential. It's just shown here for informational purposes on the water that's come through in existing contracts for this period. So with that, that wraps up this agenda item. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Lois, any comments?
I'm good.
Okay, so am I. Thank you.
Next item is presentation and discussion regarding the January 2025 to June 2025 residential and non-residential water budgets in accordance with the amended 2022 Water Management Policy Guideline number 11.
Okay, so our next item is the exciting event of setting the water policy or the water budgets for our next period. So in the amended 2022 water policy, guideline number 11 requires that City Council set a water budget for both residential and non-residential development in the last meeting of June and December. However, this year, since we're not having a water issues subcommittee meeting in December, we're doing it here in this meeting. Per guideline number 12 of the water policy sets the residential water budget, and guideline number 13 of the water policy sets the non-residential budget. So a little recap of previous water budget. The council set the residential budget at 50 acre feet per year for July 1st through December 31st. A total of 11.41 acre feet was used to date, leaving a remainder of 38.51 in the budget at this point. With those numbers, that accounts for about 23% of the water budget being used for this period. I wanted to note here that you just heard the approval or the recommendation to approve and move forward with the Embry-Riddle Residence Hall. That was for 34 acre feet. Again, if council approves that at the next vote or at the voting meeting, it will not technically come out of this budget, but for the purposes of understanding how much water you've approved for this period, if that project is approved through council, the total for this period will be 45.49 acre feet of water that actually was approved through this body, through this subcommittee.
So our 50 was pretty darn close.
Yeah, it was very close. It was. So, as shown by the table up here, and that kind of recaps the residential portion there, 50 acre feet, administratively approved 0.75 acre feet, total approval of 10.74 through the Water Issues Subcommittee, 11.49 total, and 38.51 remaining in this period. And then the bottom part of the table, the non-residential budget, a total of 4 projects through there, 2 administratively approved at 0.75, 2 council approved at 3.52 for a total of 4.27, and leaving a remainder of 20.73 out of the 25 acre feet that was set for this budget period. So the next table that I have for you is that through help through Community Development's Planning Division and our Permit Center, we put together this table. It's a table of projected projects that we know about that could potentially be coming for the next period to help you kind of understand what might be coming down the line. And I always try to note that this is just a projection. We don't know of all the projects that could possibly be coming in, and we don't even know if these projects here will not run into some obstacles where they may be delayed, but it's the best we can do with the information that we have. So the potential projects on the residential side are shown on the top of the table. We've made some estimates too on the water usage because we don't really have all the pertinent information on them. So we just kind of did the best we can to estimate what we anticipate would be the water demand for each of these particular projects. And, we do have a number of other PAC projects. I've went through the PACs that were reviewed in this 6-month period. And these are the ones that kind of filter to the top as being the most probable of coming through. And not a whole lot that we're seeing for residential at this period. So we kind of, in our judgment, it probably is going to fall somewhere between 10 and 25 for residential in this period.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to use that glass ball to predict the future. You can only do the best you can. I see you've got the Plaza Hotel on Montezuma here. Yeah. It might come back. It might not. So just in case.
Exactly.
In that regard, regarding the Plaza Hotel, considering they don't have a plan approved and whatever they bring forward will have to go again through preservation and just planning and zoning and finally work its way to us. I think the odds are small that it'll come through in this window, but I'm okay with having it there. The only other one that I was, I'm super excited. We were just walking past it on Cortez yesterday, the redevelopment of the historic building over there. It's possible there might be
racket club.
Yeah, it might be. It's there, 130 North Cortez. They might be a restaurant in there. The 2 acre feet might need to be increased. But again, there's enough, what we end up developing, I think we'll be fine with proposing a budget. But the only one that I didn't understand if it was in here, because it's already made its way through historic preservation, is the new hotel at the old City Hall. And why was that not included potentially in this time frame?
To the best of my understanding, that water has already been included in the contract for that development. So it would be considered an existing contract and it would not come through the water issues subcommittee.
Yeah, it was part of the negotiations.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, good question. And then one last question, let's see, the mobile home park, Rincon Ridge, is that the one out on Iron Springs?
It says
was an RV
906
park.
Rock Lane.
Rock Lane.
Trying to remember at this point in time, and I'm not sure if that's the same one.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah.
I just looking at it as maybe affordable housing, mobile home park. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm to be honest, I'm not sure if that's the same one that was on Iron Springs. At this point, I'd have to look up and kind of research it.
It's off of Iron Springs, but not the one we've talked about and already assigned water to on Iron Springs. Okay. So this is yet another one tucked back in behind True Value in that direction. Gail Gardner, that area.
Oh, in that area. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just trying to figure that out. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think they're working through some planning issues on that one, so I haven't really been tracking it too much yet.
All right. I'm good.
So with that, if you have any other questions, but if not, I guess the name of the game is to make a recommendation, on the new water budgets for residential, non-residential.
Well, I think we should have a discussion before I make a motion. As far as I'm concerned, I think we should, doesn't look like any huge, because we've heard about the Embry-Riddle project coming down the pipeline for a long time, and I haven't heard of any other huge projects that might come to fruition in 6 months. We've got a lot of things in the works, potentially, but just people sending out feelers. But, I say we keep it 25 and 25. What do you think, Lois?
Totally aligned.
I'd like to make a motion to move to forward the residential and non-residential water budgets for January through June 2025 at 25 acre feet for commercial or non-residential and 25 acre feet for residential.
Second.
Passes 2-0. Next item is presentation and discussion regarding green stormwater infrastructure.
Good. Good morning, Water Issues Subcommittee. I'm Matt Colleen with Public Works, and on my left is our stormwater specialist, Elise Anderson.
Did you say Denise?
Elise.
Elise Anderson.
Okay,
Nice to meet you.
Okay, got
So we're going to kind of tag team this and highlight some of Elise's great work towards the end of it. But we're going to start off with basically an introduction of what green stormwater infrastructure is. And the kind of tagline we have here, natural solutions for urban challenges, really kind of hits it on the head, and that we're trying to utilize these ecosystem services that were pushed to the outskirts of the city through its development over time and bringing them back into the city. So looking at kind of our talking points today, we'll hit on what it is, what existing guidelines we have that we are utilizing currently to develop this, and also what other Arizona-based references are out there that we can utilize rather than recreating a wheel. We'll also touch on the ADEQ Water Quality Improvement Grant that we're in the process of wrapping up right now, and then talk about what's coming down the pipeline, and then leave time at the end for questions. And we're also happy to take questions at any point during the presentation as well. So what is green stormwater infrastructure? Basically, we're trying to mimic some of the benefits that natural places provide us, whether that is infiltration of precipitation and reducing temperatures through tree canopy or otherwise. And really one of the most common mantras that often is attributed to the EPA is to, when it comes to stormwater runoff, you want to slow it, spread it, and sink it. So rather than having it concentrate energy and pollutants, we're able to let that rain sink in where it falls. And there's a number of ways we can do that, both at a residential scale and at a municipality scale. And so when we think about some of the street designs that we see, we can make them more complete streets by including roadside rain gardens effectively. There's other things like permeable pavements, pavers can often serve that function, that allow water to soak through rather than run off. And there's added benefit, particularly in our climate. A lot of the leaders in the green stormwater infrastructure movement in Arizona are in lower, warmer climates, and they don't have to think about freeze-thaw cycles. And so when we think about public roadways, the idea of getting that snowmelt or rainwater off the road provides additional safety benefits of reducing ice creation for either the walking, biking, or driving public. And so we're keeping that in mind as we look around town for possible sites. And as our water conservation team has done through water rebates, there's a lot of great applications that we can do at a residential scale, whether it's using active rainwater harvesting with cisterns or barrels, or creating swales. Passive rainwater harvesting in those rain gardens are a great way to prevent that water from just scouring sediment or other things off of a residential yard and depositing it in the roadway. And so there are a number of great rebates available through the water conservation program that help do this. And we're also trying to realize it through development of subdivisions and commercial sites as well. So the standards that we're using currently all are a bit dated, to be honest, but they're effective. So first and foremost, all stormwater code lives in chapter 16 of city code. It's 16.4, 5, and 6. 6 is the one that specifically talks about when we have development, we need to treat the first flush before it leaves that site, so we're not having a cumulative, significant increase in the pollutants that reach our 12 impaired creeks and our impaired Watson Lake. And so that is something that we do through the plan review process. We're able to see when a commercial site or a subdivision comes through, how are they going to effectively treat the first flush of runoff from that site, the newly impervious area. Further details for that are also provided in our general engineering standards, and that's 3.10 specifically. And so it references specifically using vegetated swales or rain gardens as one of the ways that we can do this. There's other more kind of mechanical and traditional ways of doing it, but the fact that we've got those kind of green stormwater infrastructure references in there has been very useful. And in the current draft general plan that is receiving public comments, there is a program on page 30 specifically called out to create a green stormwater infrastructure program to identify, construct, and very importantly, to maintain green stormwater infrastructure. It's great to build these things, but because of their sunken nature and the fact that they concentrate water, it can be weedy, it can kind of collect trash, that's the way the wind blows sometimes. And so it's important that we create a program that has that long-term vision of making these assets to the community and not eyesores. And there's a lot of great Arizona-based references for us. So as I mentioned, we're not recreating the wheel on this, but we're making sure that it rolls in Prescott. And so we're the first one on that lower left corner of the screen is the low impact development guide that Flagstaff, and that is something that the general engineering standards and city code both reference, but it is a little bit dated going back to '09. Some of the other ones that are out here are really useful for kind of different applications. And it can be for just for a point of communication. Some of these manuals have really good graphics. And other ones, like the one in the top center, is actually being worked on to be incorporated into the Maricopa Association of Governments construction standards. And that's a really big thing, because we'll often see projects that refer to the MAG standards. And so having specific green stormwater infrastructure standards and details really helps elevate the quality of construction that we're going to realize on the ground.
Matt, I have a comment. I find this really exciting. I think this is wonderful. It's part of a multi-pronged approach to clean up Watson Lake, so maybe we can go swimming someday.
Yep.
But do you work with to educate the architects and draftsmen who are designing projects here in Prescott? Is there any communication to make them aware of this program?
It's a good question, because that's one of the challenges that we do face, is that these design professionals have very specific guidelines that their clients are providing them. And so in many cases, this seems extraneous or just like icing on a cake that they don't want to eat. And so that's why having standards and guidelines that require it is going to get them in the door. What they do with that is kind of joint responsibility where we can provide through pre-application conference comments that specifically reference green stormwater infrastructure and encourages it. We do that from the very first time we see those projects.
Do you think some code changes, code amendments would be in order?
I think that due to the date of our code and the evolving nature of stormwater regulation from the federal level to the state level, we're probably due, and I have had conversations with parts of the legal team about that, and I know that they have, Ms. Elaine Moore had mentioned that they were looking at updating certain chapters of code, and I let her know that we're definitely in line for that as well.
Thank you for doing that, because I really think that this is something that we should move forward, get it into our land development code, let the architects and draftsmen know what we're doing here. For example, Embry-Riddle, they have no plans with their new dorms to do any stormwater. I was going to suggest maybe you reach out to them.
We've actually seen early iterations of their grading plans for that, and they do have stormwater facilities associated with it. And they're somewhat fortunate in that the way that their facility, the university discharges, it goes through wide open spaces. So particularly on that north side, there's that wide open grassy field, and that's one of the best biofilters you can imagine. It's literally slowing it, spreading it, sinking it in, and having vegetative growth through it.
So they're way ahead of us.
They are. Sometimes, it's...
That sounds like Embry-Riddle.
Yeah. No, they've been very attentive to that, and they've been great partners to work with over time. And one of the things also is that in order to, ask the development community to do this stuff, we also have to demonstrate it done well. And so, anytime you point the finger, you kind of need to step up and demonstrate as well. And that is something that we have in mind here, and it ties into this water quality improvement grant. Through our time with the city, we realized that there's a lot of areas that, rather than brand new construction, that would be well suited towards retrofits. So the initial price tag is going to be less than a brand new construction project, but there's a lot of different sites that have potential for this. And we looked at sites that were exclusively city, municipal parks. You need some square footage of land to do this. And so when you think about who has that, it's the city and our parks in particular, and then school district also has a fair amount of land as well. And so we created a master list of 25 different candidate sites. And then working with a consultant that the grant paid for in totality, we created 8 different kind of categories which we weight them on. And so we can provide scores. And some of these are fixed scores from other data sources, and other ones are ones that we're still kind of tying the knot on and really finishing up, make sure it's robust. But what this tool does, it also allows us to adjust the weights of the different categories based on the setting. And so if we know that we've got a funding source, for example, a federal funding initiative coming through EPA or FEMA or something like that, we can actually adjust the relative value of, say, the flooding category if it were a FEMA-based grant, so that those candidate sites would kind of move to the top of the list, so that were we able to get some, shovels in the ground type construction dollar through grant funding, we would be at the ready to move forward.
Matt, could you explain the tree canopy gap?
Yeah, so the American Forest Association is a nonprofit, and they looked at a number of these the 2 categories in yellow here. So they have a number of data sources. So the tree canopy gap is based on GIS analysis. And what it does is it looks at your existing tree canopy and it compares it to what they have prescribed as area professionals of what it should be. And if there's a gap there, it's noted by a differential score in that category.
How are we doing?
It's variable. It's also somewhat intuitive. And so one of the things, as you go further south in town and approach the forest, we're just a little bit more forested. One of the things that I thought was pretty interesting is when I looked at more of the developed center of the city, things that could kind of sway that score were our creeks and the riparian forests that were associated with them. And so if you looked at an area over by 6th Street, kind of an industrial light area, you might not think of it being all that forested, but with Granite Creek Park and the confluence of the North Fork of Granite Creek, that actually is enough to kind of bounce that number up to a more middle of the range category.
Yeah, we have a lot of riparian areas we're not aware of. There's one that goes behind KYCA, the radio station, back in there. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful, beautiful area back in there.
Yeah, and yeah, that's one of the beautiful parts about this town is that there's a little creek running through just about every neighborhood. And so that has really overall left us in a pretty good place when it comes to that tree canopy score.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we're still kind of putting the finishing touches on the ranking, and so we'll be utilizing the city's new Participate Prescott website. Elise has just initiated that kind of process. We'll be developing a page and doing some outreach associated with this so that residents and stakeholders can come through and tell us what of those categories are more important to them as we evaluate these sites. Is it an environmental one? Is it more of a financial, I want to make sure my tax dollars are spent in a very reasonable manner? Or is it to reduce nuisance flooding? And so residents and stakeholders will have that ability to go in and share with us what they think are the important characteristics when weighting these sites for construction.
Yeah, we continue to get in the downtown area complaints when we have heavy storms about flooding. Even some of our 12-inch high sidewalks aren't capable of controlling what's happening. So do you have any ideas of maybe trying some things in the downtown area to help with the flooding issue? Because I think this is an interesting concept to make it green and helpful.
Yeah. The sites are spread throughout town. A third of the sites are in what was described by the EPA's environmental justice screening tool as a disadvantaged area. So that includes large portions of the Dexter neighborhood, kind of bounded, actually goes up beyond Prescott High School, bounded by Miller Valley Road, Grove on the west, then all the way over through 6th Street over to Sheldon even. So there's a third of our sites are located in that area. Some of the ones that you're speaking to in the downtown area is challenging because of this requires some space. And so figuring out how to squeeze something in and deal with a quantity of water that is significant is a challenge. Not that it can't be done, but it's something we definitely do appreciate the need for. We're the frontline staff for all drainage calls, so we understand that.
So you know where the flooding is happening in the eastern side of downtown. Okay.
I'd just like to comment that when the streets division, when they engineer a new street, like when they did Beach and McCormick, there by Charlotte Hall, mm-hmm. They changed the storm drain location and prevented a lot of the problems in that area.
Yeah, and so, we do actively engage in the plan review associated with that. And when we can put some of those stormwater and drainage elements in from the very beginning, not have them as afterthoughts, they're going to be much more effective. So another really cool part of that grant was to do more of the outreach. And so you mentioned earlier working with some of the design professionals in the area. Thanks to Elisa's effort, we have something we can point them at now. And I'll let her describe that.
Great. Thank you, Matt. So the ArcGIS Story Map is serving as a way to educate the public and be a part of the outreach of the Water Quality Improvement Grant. And so to explain a bit what an ArcGIS Story Map is, it's an interactive website. It is linked to a mapping software where people can basically fly around the city of Prescott and see aerial maps and locations of this green stormwater infrastructure. The idea is that we can communicate with, stakeholders in the community, different champions, community champions of green stormwater infrastructure, and even contractors or people who don't know what green stormwater infrastructure is. They can see these 6 existing sites. My hope would be that it would inspire them to go visit them, see them in real life, and then also communicate with them on the 4 potential sites out of the 25 that we're looking at developing. Let's see, it shares resources so citizens can build their own green stormwater infrastructure sites, whether that's a smaller scale on their private property, or if it were business owners, Embry-Riddle, larger entities are able to see what we've done with some larger areas, and they can use that as an example and the resources we point to build their own. Let's see, I have plans to present the story map as well as info about the Water Quality Improvement Grant to different local environmental groups. Just getting that word out there. And again, with Tracy in Water Resources, she's a Water Resource Project Manager in Public Works. She's wanting to spotlight community champions of water conservation who already are utilizing this green stormwater infrastructure. So while this is ready for presentation at a certain level today, Tracy and I have a vision of continuing to develop it and flesh it out as it goes into the community and becomes a working resource for all of our residents. So without further ado, we will dive into the story map here, and I'll give you a brief tour of the different elements. Do you have any questions at this point?
Nope, continue.
Okay. We'll go full screen. And we'll zoom in just a bit here. So to your point about local flooding and drainage issues, the story map starts off with this question. A summer monsoon brings life to our local ecosystem, but large volumes of water can inundate development. Can this runoff be reimagined? So to me, that is the heart of green stormwater infrastructure, and the need is here in the city of Prescott because water conservation is so important that instead of this being a nuisance where people need a solution and they're calling us, it doesn't always have to be a gray infrastructure fix. While that has, pipes and concrete and riprap has its function, it doesn't have to be the only solution to the problem. And so green stormwater infrastructure, getting that word out there, just getting it into everyday vernacular as we educate citizens, it can become another solution in their toolbox to reimagine that runoff and use the water. It's no longer a nuisance. It's now a resource that can be utilized. So let's see. As we travel through the site here, we start off with an overview. There's a navigation bar on top where people can jump to specific sites. You'll see the 6 that exist are the Rodeo Biobasin. The Willow Creek Park is opposite the dog park, is our newest site. The Adult Center on Rosser. The Rain Gardens on Alarcon, North Alarcon. And the Whipple Basin by the hospital and the intersection of Miller Valley. Acker Park Basin on the southern side. And then we have our 4 potential sites out of the 25 that we've highlighted, starting mainly with public parks to Matt's point that they are large areas that the city already owns, where incorporating this green stormwater infrastructure can be easily feasible. So we're looking at a site at Strickland Park, out of Thumb Butte Road, Flynn Park, Granite Creek Park, and then I put in a 4th one that's more residential, more like the Alarcon Rain Gardens. That would be Brookside Boulevard. So the overview aims to educate people on the what, the where, the why. So what is green stormwater infrastructure? It compares it to, again, the gray infrastructure, that it's another natural alternative with many benefits, filtering pollutants, slowing the stormwater runoff. And mentions an example. You'll see as I scroll, it's going to pop to another example on the aerial map that matches the photo. Speaks to some economic benefits, ecologic benefits. Outlines the 6 sites.
Yeah. Elise, I would just like to comment over there. It's called Five Corners over there by the 5 Points over there by the hospital.
Oh.
That's been there for many years, and that's been a wonderful detention. It's an old term, detention basin,
Yeah.
green area that has flourished. And there's even an area in front of the, is that a Circle K across the street? What is that?
Oh, the Maverick.
Gas
Is it a
station.
Maverick or a
Yeah,
Circle
the Maverick,
K?
yeah. Across the street, but I've just, that's been there for, 20 years or something.
And it provides some wonderful resources. I pulled some traffic data with someone in Public Works that's the third busiest intersection in Prescott. And so thinking of all the pollutants it's able to filter while it's there. And it also has some management challenges that Matt and I have been the front end on solving and working with different people. And so as I built this story map, I also didn't want to just communicate the rose-colored glasses side of GSI. So as we go through, it also mentions suggested maintenance schedules, challenges that we've had in the past, either with construction or maintenance, in hopes that people know, to Matt's point, these sites aren't just built and then function in a beautiful, effective manner forever. They do require maintenance and upkeep. And being honest from that standpoint from the beginning with whether it's citizens or businesses, it's going to allow the life of that site to be successful instead of fall on its face. Let's see. All right, so we have some resources I point people to. And that's the overview. As we go into each site in this presentation, I just wanted to highlight the Willow Creek Park Basin is one of our newer basins that, as part of this planning grant, we worked with Rec Services staff in a workshop style to implement the changes in this site across from the dog park in June of this year. So once we get to each individual site, it turns into a horizontal navigation style. Each site you'll see references the standard details. Something Matt and I have experienced as we go do inspections on new construction sites. Sometimes we will recommend to contractors the GSI feature that needs to be built in that area. And then these standard details can be given to a contractor who can then build the feature that's needed in that area. So that was the inspiration of each site being a showcase for a certain standard detail that folks can then take this and actually build it. The link to the reference is right below the visual diagram of the standard detail of the feature. Again, just referencing to people the value. So in this area, it's flood control. In the Willow Creek Dog Park region, the parking lot closer to Willow Lake, closer to the softball fields, has experienced historic flooding. And not only that, sediment and rocks tend to carry with the floodwater and be spread along that parking area. So this serves to improve the flood control in the area. And then, of course, water conservation, adding some shade and some aesthetics to a nice park atmosphere. Each of these, they have kind of an interactive slider that's neat. So you can see things from beginning construction as a site progresses, to know that the sites are fluid. They're changeable, because they are green stormwater infrastructure, living plants. They're not static sites, for better or worse. Lessons learned, again, just pointing to lessons we learned as we worked through the site. Sediment was a challenge for us. Sandy soil conditions, knowing what types of plants you can grow in certain areas, and providing some solutions for folks as they think about building their own sites. A recommended maintenance schedule is given at each example site. And then finally, a location. Again, my hope and dream, along with Tracy, the Water Resources Project Manager, is to engage the community, engage different groups, and take them on field trips, walk-in field trips to showcase these sites, and ask any questions that they have so that they're able to implement this on a broader scale throughout the town. So I'll pop down to a future site. Through the Water Quality Improvement Grant, we worked with West Consultants, and that was provided through the grant, and they worked to make concept sketches. So this is another resource where people can visualize the differences in sites, the before and after, and how one might engineer or transform a landscape, taking some water off the road into the different basins. Again, we just have some before and after. Not only does this work on a macro level, but a micro level of soil health and, improving the biodiversity in an area. So the future for this site, like I said, we would like to go to different sites and highlight the functions of the area, the values, how people can use it in their own neighborhood. The other interesting part about this website platform is that you can embed videos so people can really see the runoff happening, and then partnering that with the concept sketches, they can see how this water, this is at Flynn Park, that's really rushing down the gutters here. As we compare it to the concept sketches, you can see how that amount of water can be used to irrigate the field. So again, having financial benefits as well. Let's see. All right, so I think I'll leave it there and open it up for questions.
Thank you. This is probably a question more for Matt, but Watson Lake, gets polluted with nitrates and herbicides and pesticides and E. coli. Have you worked with Parks and Recs about what they spray on these fields? Do they spray a lot of pesticides and weed killers, or do they just kind of let it kind of be more natural? Or because that would be very helpful to clean up.
It would. Pardon me. It's somewhat self-limiting, and the chemicals are really expensive. And so they realize that sound holistic management is going to be the best case, and not just looking for a chemical to kind of solve anything. They do use various herbicides, fertilizers, and other things. And so we haven't actively had that discussion yet with regards to what it means for runoff and to, our neighboring creeks or other areas. But
because that'd be a good discussion to have, because there's got to be less toxic fertilizers out there, more natural. I don't know.
Yeah, and one of the benefits that was illustrated in the concept sketch is that by utilizing this type of stuff, you are rebuilding that natural soil chemistry that doesn't rely on supplemental chemical treatments. Yeah. And so that soil not only has those beneficial bacteria and fungus and all of those other things that are there, they also become much more of a living sponge. And so they're able to hold more of that stormwater more effectively. And then phytoremediation, the grasses, the shrubs, the trees will be eating those nitrates rather than allowing them to pass on to Watson Lake and contribute to its ongoing impairment. So yeah, there's a number of benefits. Looking at chemical use across the board makes sense. We're giving a training tomorrow at the wastewater treatment plant, and one of them is specifically on, fertilizer or pesticide use. And the question is, do you need it? Rather than just reaching for it, figure out if it is really the best tool.
Yeah, prevention's the best medicine. Well, thank you. Lois, any comments?
Yeah, I love the story map idea, and helps all the videos, et cetera, really help educate people. The only other thing, again, coming from my experience and others who've come from other states, is we don't know what we don't know until we get here. And then we spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars fixing everything that if we had been educated at the beginning. And so I just want to also encourage perhaps some of the local magazines, when you're coming from other states and you come and visit here, the Yavapai Contractors Association magazine, Signals, Prescott Woman, etc. You're picking up those magazines and you're sitting in the hotel rooms imagining what your future life is going to be here. And if you could get some of these groups to give you, a storyline, because those magazines, some of them are out for a quarter or 6 months, just to see if you can start educating people to plan ahead and know that you have these websites that they may not know about today. And they wouldn't think about knowing about, even things like the plant lists, etc. You don't get those things, and a lot of the landscape companies don't tell you those things. So you find out the hard way when everything they've planted is dying. So I just want to encourage hooking up with communications and trying to figure out how to beef up our storylines to go into all the areas of water and conservation and green and gray. Like, you're using terms that I'm sitting here going, okay, I finally just figured out what gray means, because I didn't really understand. And so, if the quicker you can educate people by meeting them where they actually are reading, the better off I think we'd all be down the road, including their pocketbooks. So great work, guys.
Yeah, it's green the gray is the charge, the call.
We'll get to it. And honestly, it's a team effort with, as Elise mentioned, Tracy is new to the team, but it's going to allow for that integration from our side on the pollutant reduction side, the water conservation side. It's one big happy family.
And also we're working on the general plan, and this is going to be an element in the general plan, I believe, too, which will be very important, because that's a planning document that's going to be used for the next 10 years.
Indeed.
So nature-based uses plants, soil, and rock to reduce and filter the water. And instead of trying to decrease the amount of water that goes into our lakes and storm drains, like I said, I think this is very exciting, and I want to congratulate you on getting the grant, too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elise, and welcome.
Thank you.
Next item is general announcements from staff.
Okay, yeah, so just a couple quick things for you here today. Comprehensive agreement number 1, agreement between the city of Prescott, Prescott Valley, and SRP, looking at monitoring and modeling efforts with recognition of certain water rights within the Prescott AMA. Does an annual report every year to summarize the data and the information that was obtained. So that report is now available on the city website in the water department portion. That the link is up there. So, and the report is between July 1st, 2023 and June 30th, 2024. So that's available for you to review and for the public to review at this point in time. I wanted to make a quick announcement on some of the water conservation messaging efforts that have gone out in the last, or been going out at this point in time and in the last couple of weeks. So fall watering and winterization of your piping messages have been made available. Tracy Beasley, our newest water resource project manager, has gone in and has done radio spots and has worked with our communications department to put blasts out through social media.
I've heard the radio spots. They're very good.
Oh, good. I'm glad they're
And
getting
it
out
caused
there
a
already.
discussion between me and my husband about
excellent.
winterizing. So there you go.
There we
Credit to
go.
him. He's been doing it all along. Didn't need this announcement, but I got educated. So
Well, see,
thank you.
that's what the whole point is. So yeah, we're putting those out at this point in time. Let me see, rebate applications. fixing leaks, and flood control print materials, again, are now available at all 7 city buildings. And so next steps, distributing these materials at the Highland Center and Yavapai Development Services. And then Tracy wanted me to let you guys know that her next mission is to get to the appliance centers, big box stores, places where people buy their washer machines and their other water using equipment, so that they can get the message out that we have a rebate program, and that if you buy the right models, you can participate and get a rebate on your water bill. So she's moving forward with that. Tracy also is currently in Surprise, Arizona. She's taking some training. It's called the QUAIL program, Qualified Water Efficient Landscaper program, to show how to install water efficient irrigation equipment and infrastructure. So she'll be doing that training for the next couple of days to kind of get some background and some training in that. And we're hoping to maybe incorporate some of those things into the city's water landscape areas, and also bring the program to the citizens here. So that's what we have for you today.
Okay, thank you. And I was at the last Firewise Committee meeting, and they had a representative from NOAA come down from Flagstaff and give us a presentation, and they're predicting a dry winter. So be prepared and continue to conserve. Okay, anything from you, Lois? Okay, this meeting's adjourned.